Welcome to the Cave of Science, and today we're going to talk about the graph you need to create for your light intensity activity you did last week in class. First thing you need to do is set up your spreadsheet, and the graph you're going to create is the same type of graph for both part 1 and part 2. Now I'm going to go through an example of part 1 here. So your distance and intensity, I'm putting the values in here. You'll record your own values, which I would assume are going to be different. So once you have them in your columns, go ahead and highlight those. Go up to your chart, and you're going to get some different chart types. Well, we're going to want to create a scatter plot. So we need to go to chart types, and we're going to use row 1 as headers and column A as labels. And then we're going to scroll down and find scatter, and we'll insert that one. And you can see we've got the scatter plot here. Let me drag this over a little bit. I'll make this a little bit bigger. Alright, so now we got the basis of our graph here. So we want to do some advanced editing. So go up and do the drop down arrow, hit advanced edit, and we've got some options here. And we've gone through most of these before. So we have our titles already there. So we can scroll down. Let's see what else we got. We got axis, horizontal distance, and we know that is measured in centimeters. So we can put a centimeters in there, and we can hit enter, and it updates that for us. The vertical axis or intensity is unitless. This is just giving us some relative values. So now we've got to go down and add a couple other things here, and we can scroll down. We've got our major grid lines, so we can put more grid lines in here. I would suggest you go ahead and hit the drop down arrow, go ahead and put 10 of them in there, and you can see now we start to add some more grid lines in here. The minor grid lines, I would go through and suggest you put in 5, and now you can see you've got grid lines in between the major grid lines, and that'll help us determine what our values are. Alright, so we need to do one more thing. We want to put a trend line in, or the line of best fit. And the beauty of Google Sheets is it'll do this for you. So we can scroll down, and we want to find, and there's a whole bunch of other things you can do. You can always play around with this stuff. So we want trend line. Right now we do not have one. So let's click the drop down arrow. There's a polynomial trend line, which we're not looking for this time. Exponential trend line, but the one we're looking for is linear. And now we've got our linear trend line, or the line of best fit, if you remember from math class on there. And at that point, it looks like we're pretty good for what we need to do with this lab. And you can see it'll actually give you the calculate slope for you on these, but we're not too worried about that in this particular lab. Alright, so now we can go ahead and hit update, and as you can see we have our graph. And I want to move this up a little bit, and here's our graph. And we're going to make the same type of graph for both of these, and we can extrapolate values. And extrapolate is to infer some data that is really off our data set. For instance, if I wanted to, if I had a distance of 208, what would be the intensity? Well, we quit at 200, but with the line of best fit, we can see at 208, we're really probably like 0.00005. We extrapolate that data in here, and that's a good term and a good procedure to know. And I think that is about it for these two. Again, very, very similar to what we've been doing. We just added a couple different features on here. So, and you're going to make the same type of graph for both part 1 and part 2. Of course, in part 2, the headings are going to change, and the X and the Y values are going to change. All right, and that's it for today.